In exactly 1 week, my iPhone 14 Pro should be here. It's a little bit bittersweet. I've been waiting a while for the upgrade, but it does mean that I will be saying goodbye to my iPhone 11 Pro. And yeah, that's iOS 16, doing a little dress rehearsal on the old one before the new one gets here. But for me, this was a huge upgrade. Apple announced a ton of new features, and being a couple generations behind, this seemed like a good time to make the jump. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the features, and then of course when the phone gets here, we'll take a little bit deeper look at everything it can do. So let's quickly rip through these features so we can spend more time on the camera parts and the video parts, which is what I really want to focus on. Starting off with some of the non-camera, non-video features, though this one is loosely related. Of course, every new phone has a new display. Apple says this one is 2 times brighter than the iPhone 13 Pro. I feel like my iPhone 11 Pro still looks amazing, and so I'm interested to see if my eye will notice that big of a jump. Refresh rate, animations, and iOS 16 already looking awesome on my old phone, so we'll see if that carries over. The other big thing, the dynamic island. So there was a lot of will they, won't they as far as the cutout or the notch or whatever you want to call it for the front-facing camera on the screen. Apple took away the part where it comes down kind of from the top of the phone as a little notch in the screen. They sort of still have a little black circle around it, but with this dynamic island, the bug becomes a feature. It's sort of a very cool, interactive, animated way to see notifications, work with other apps, but without having to constantly thumb up and slide across and switch between apps. Some of the other features that Apple's added, there is an accident crash detection, which I hope nobody ever has to test or utilize, but it does with accelerometers and different measurements inside the phone. It's supposed to be able to pick up when there's an impact, and then your phone will bring up an SOS message and ask if you're okay, and if not, you press one button, emergency call goes out. This will also connect to the Apple Watch, which Watch OS 9 also dropped yesterday with the iOS 16 update. Speaking of emergency services, Apple has also in the 14 series, and I believe this is across all of the 14s, added a satellite communication emergency system. So if you're in a rural area, you're somewhere without Wi-Fi, without cell signal, there should be some limited communication and calling you'll be able to do. That's not going to hit the phones until November, but the phones do drop in September. So a couple months before that one comes out and people really get their hands on it. Once again, hoping no one ever has to use it. Not sure how people would test it without making fake emergency calls. The A16 Bionic Chip is the new chipset. It is in the Pros only, not in the standard versions of the iPhone 14. They're still on the A15. I'm not a chip guy. I'm not an engineer as far as that stuff's concerned. It's just supposed to be better, faster, stronger, and allow for all of those things that we're going to talk about the camera doing. And speaking of the camera, so Apple has continued with the 3-camera system, but they've sort of stuck 2 optical modes in the main camera. So your 0.5 when you look in your native photo app, that's your ultra wide, and that's got brighter, better aperture, better quality overall. Your main camera now has an optical 24mm and an optical 48mm. And this all comes with a new 48 megapixel sensor. Night mode's still there. You have a smart HDR4, the photo portrait mode with portrait lighting, the night mode portrait photos are still there, and of course Apple's photographic styles and the Apple Pro RAW photo mode for that super high quality RAW photo. One of the big new video modes that's got me really excited is the new action mode. If you think about the hyper smooth that like GoPro offers and DJI, all the action cameras sort of have their own version of this, Apple has put that stabilization into the iPhone. Now, it's supposed to be at its best in the main camera, which would be your 1x/2x in your native camera app. Your 3x still has some image stabilization, not sure if it's going to support action mode, and then the ultra wide doesn't have the image stabilization for it because I think it's just looking at too much of the sensor for there to be any sensor crop to build in any stabilization. The other video feature, and this is the one that I held out for because I was very close. I was in my 2-year window to kind of make that upgrade, but I was still pretty happy with the 11 Pro. Cinematic mode was added in the 13 Pro, which allows you to get that kind of bokeh look out of a cell phone that's always sort of separated phone video versus camera video. Like right now I'm shooting this on a 2.8, background's a little bit blurry. phones didn't necessarily do that. If you got really, really close, you could maybe force it to do that, but it still wasn't something you had a ton of control over. And with some manual apps like Filmic and Moment, you were able to do some of that as well, but never with the depth. Cinematic mode gives you that look. That is the point of the mode. And it was only available in 1080p HD in the 13 Pro, but in the 14 Pro, which was my hope, and I got my wish, 4K now at 24 and 30 frames a second. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I hope I feel the same way when the phone's in my hands. As soon as I get it in my hands, I will do a little bit of an unboxing video. The boxes aren't that exciting these days. It's just a phone and maybe a charging cable. No charging bricks. Apple's carbon neutral, trying to reduce all that e-waste. And, you know, chargers from companies like Anker, I love, and can grab those very reasonably priced online. So that's probably the route I would go anyway, even if Apple included something with it. But yeah, I'll jump back on here once I have the phone in hand in a week. I get to hang on to my 11 Pro for a little bit. I am trading it in to get a very nice credit for the new phone, but I'll do a little bit of side by side. So that is it, and we will see you when the iPhone 14 Pro is here in my hand.
Yo.